Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. The CONCACAF Gold Cup is in full swing with 7 of the quarterfinalists already confirmed. Mexico, El Salvador, USA, Canada, Costa Rica, Jamaica and Honduras have all punched their ticket on Tuesday. The preliminary stage concludes with games in Group C and D. Costa Rica versus Jamaica, Suriname versus Guadeloupe, Honduras up against Qatar and Panama play Grenada. George and Lance, so we have the fixtures decided. Costa Rica up against Jamaica, and I'm asking both of you about this fixture first. 1, because you're Jamaican, and 2, because I think it's going to be extremely mouth-watering. George, Lance?
Well, based on Jamaica's performances so far in the tournament, I would suggest that I wouldn't go into this match with a lot of confidence. They've played well enough to get through to the quarterfinals, but they have not been impressive. Having said that, Costa Rica hasn't set the news alight as well. But the Jamaica team has a lot of little loose ends that I would think need to be fixed. So this is a toss-up for me. I'm not sure who would win this one.
George, loose ends?
Yeah, there's a lack of cohesion in the Reggae Boys play, and you get the sense that, so you have 3 distinct units. You have the defense, you have the midfield, and you have the attack. And all 3 units are supposed to be linked by a chain, but you get the sense that Jamaica have doubled a strong rope and used it to link all 3 segments, where a chain is what is needed. So it's weak. The boys themselves know that this is not the strongest, so let us handle it carefully. So the point I'm making is that you're not seeing a cohesive Reggae Boys unit. I've always felt that when you have a team that lacks the cohesion and lacks quality in some crucial places, and we've spoken ad nauseum about the weakness at defensive midfield, that when you have that weakness in a team, you're bound to be found out the moment you play a good team. Now, Lance has said that Costa Rica haven't really set the place alight, and he is correct. But I think that Costa Rica have played more as a team than the Reggae Boys, and those players will be motivated to take down the Reggae Boys scalp in this game. I say the Reggae Boys are underdogs going into the game based on team play. Clearly, Jamaica has the more high-profile individuals, none higher than Leon Bailey, but he has been struggling to really get into the flow of this team, not because of anything that he has done, but just because the team is so disjointed. So I make Costa Rica favorites, and if Jamaica will win, it will be down to what has given them the 2 victories so far in this tournament, which is individual quality. I think Costa Rica are playing as a better unit, and that could give them the edge.
Well, we all know I'm carrying the Jamaica Reggae Boys. Well, George and Lance, our former TNT international footballer Brent Sancho joins us now to talk about the games. Brent, welcome.
Hi guys, how are you doing?
We're good.
Hello.
We're good. Well, Costa Rica and Jamaica are joined to top of Group C on 6 points and have the same goal difference. The winner of the group will have a quarterfinal meeting with Canada, while second place will battle the USA. So, Brent, there is much to play for when Costa Rica and Jamaica meet to decide Group C honors.
Yeah, certainly a lot to play for. I have Jamaica down as one of my dark horses, and I know that's a loose term when it comes to sport, but I truly believe they have within their squad the talent and capabilities. But I think the challenge that I have in, of course, stamping that is the various departments within the squad. As George was mentioning, they just haven't performed to what they have in their caliber. When you have the likes of Bailey, Nicholson, of course, Reed is out with COVID. But when you have that kind of talent, you're supposed to be stamping the authority in games. You're supposed to be taking games by the scruff of the neck. I think this is one of the easier groups, simply because it's not the Costa Rica team that we've seen many moons ago doing well in a World Cup or even up to recent times. They're out certainly without Keylor Navas, one of their inspirational leaders, and of course, easily one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And that being said, I've still not seen enough domination from the Jamaicans that I was hoping to see. They've been able to get by just on pure individualism, and you would hope to see a little bit more from them, especially from now on in, because even whatever happens with this Costa Rica game, they go into the knockout phases where they will face better opposition, and they're going to have to do better.
Definitely. Well, Brent, Group D is being hotly contested, and of course the free-scoring Hondurans are already through with guest team Qatar and Central American contenders Panama in a battle for the next place in the last 8. Qatar have their destiny in their hands, and they need only a point to secure that spot. Will they do it? That's the question.
Well, I must say, I'm a big fan of the Qatar team. We saw them on the Copa America that we covered, and there's something about them, the free spirit approach that they have, and I see that in the context, of course, of the way they approach games. They score a lot of goals. Of course, they've conceded some since they've been here in the tournament, but the way they play, of course, the type of players that they have, creative players that want to get on it. They're on the front foot. They're a very offensive team. Their shape and their tactical approach will suggest that. And I really enjoyed what I've seen so far from them. They've actually brought a lot to this tournament. They've normally, we may invite a South American team or a team from another continent, and they normally send B teams. This is a very good team from Qatar. And more importantly, of course, as it relates to Honduras and Panama, I was very impressed with what I see from Honduras. Panama, not so much. I was expecting a little bit more from them, and I thought they would have sewn up things. But certainly, I think Honduras is one of the teams that I feel would move forward, and I think both teams will be happy with a draw so they can move on to the next phase. But it should be an exciting game between Qatar and Honduras. It's one of the groups, Mariah, that has really excited me. It's certainly brought about some very, very good football.
Definitely. And of the 7 teams from the Caribbean Football Union that began the competition, only one, and that's Jamaica, has progressed to the knockout rounds. Brent, how do we read into this one?
Listen, Mariah, this is a sore point for me here. It is that, listen, and I want your viewers to understand, this is an indictment on Caribbean football. And anyone else that wants to talk about Caribbean football and upward movement, and it's not happening. And when I say indictment, I mean from a development point of view, I mean from the fact that we are getting further and further away from the rest of the CONCACAF pack. And when I mean CONCACAF pack, I talk about Mexico, USA, Canada, Costa Rica, etc. Outside of the teams in the Caribbean that has the ability to draw on foreign-based players, the rest of us, the ones that can't, they are struggling. That's a fact. We are struggling big time. And we're struggling because our domestic leagues are just not good enough to produce the players to play international football. We are struggling because we do not put our funds in the right places. So it means that we are not where we're supposed to be. The Caribbean Football Union has not had an age group football tournament in a while. All these factors have led up to where we are right now. And if we don't fix it, that gap, Mariah, is going to get further and further apart. And we're going to continue to see what we are seeing right now.
Mm. Brent, you mentioned, apart from the Caribbean Football Union teams that have at their disposal the ability to call in overseas professionals, that is where the major part of the struggle is. Disappointing that when the CONCACAF Gold Cup is expanded to 16 teams, giving more CFU teams an opportunity to show their worth, COVID-19 has been an issue as well. I know you mentioned that for TNT, pretty much the entire squad is overseas based, so they would not have suffered from the lack of competition domestically. But, some of the other teams that were, heading for Gold Cup football and so on, wouldn't they have been hamstrung by what has happened in the past 16 months with COVID?
I think it's a factor, but it's on a minor scale, Lance, because if you look at the history of this tournament, teams like Grenada, St. Vincent was one part of it, Guyana, etc., for lack of a better word, they've been battered in this tournament. And the only reason why they have struggled is simply because the local leagues that we have to develop our players so we can prime them for these sorts of tournaments is just not good enough. And that's a fact. There is a conversation about a Caribbean Professional League. And if that does not happen, it is going to mean that our local players within the various countries are just never, ever going to be up to scratch to compete against a Keylor Navas, and of course, Davies from Canada, etc., etc. Simply because the environment in where they're developing in is not good enough to get them ready for these sorts of competitions. And we have to do something at the Caribbean level because it's not working, because we are seeing the results. The results is there for us to see.
Yeah. Is your point strengthened, though, Brent, by the fact that most of the time when the Caribbean Football Union teams do well in the CONCACAF Gold Cup, their squads are predominantly made up of overseas professionals, many of them not born in the Caribbean and sought after? I see Curacao had reached the quarterfinals in the previous Gold Cup tournament, but as we all know, most of their players are based in the Netherlands and so on.
Well, look, I did a quick check before I got into this program, and the likes of Suriname, the likes of Curacao, the likes of Guadeloupe, the likes of Martinique, their percentages as it relates to their squads is almost 80% of players that play outside. And most of them, Lance, have probably never even seen the island that they represent, all due respect to them. But that's a fact, and that is what we're dealing with. And that is why I'm suggesting that the teams like Grenada and Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent, the ones that have locally based players that as an integral part of their squad, have faltered, have failed, have been battered in some situations. Look at Grenada, for example. They've lost 2 games 4-0 in a row and probably will lose again 4-0. And this is not a disrespect to those nations. That's a fact. That is what is happening. And until we can fix that, until we can address that situation, it's not going to happen. When you look at the development process in the Caribbean, it's not there. It's nothing is there. We are relying on calling to see whose grandmother or auntie is from the West Indies to play football for that country. It's not going to work. What about developing our local talent in a way that would make them significant contributors in these types of tournaments? It's not happening, and it's the reason why we are seeing these types of results.
And you know, I'm happy that we're having this conversation now, because my eyes popped wide open when I read that Randy Harris had been returned as CFU president, and I'm saying, he gets a vote of confidence for doing precisely what? Because I'm even more strident than you are, Brent, and I can sense your passion where this is concerned. The CFU is rubbish. It's a car crash, really. There's no competition here. And if you use the barometer of the domestic leagues in the leading lights, the traditional leading lights in the CFU, then those leagues are weak right now. And so you don't have that strong competition within the CFU. Do you have a Caribbean Cup anymore? You don't have a Caribbean Cup anymore. So you don't have anything at the CFU. And so when we mix it with the CONCACAF boys, we are going to be embarrassed, and you're going to have a situation where the Gold Cup has 8 teams in the knockout round and only 1 CFU team is there. And of course, as you say, and correctly, that CFU team is peopled almost exclusively by foreigners.
You're correct. And look, I don't blame necessarily Randy. I blame the people that has voted for this continuance. And that is the issue at the end of the day. We should be demanding as a Caribbean Union for more. And I'm very sure, Randy's somebody I know well, I'm very sure that if we are to present as a whole, as a Caribbean whole, that this is what we want for our football, it's going to change. You cannot look at this, at this Gold Cup, which is the premier tournament in this region, and think to yourself, everything is okay. It is not okay. I looked at that game, George, Trinidad and Tobago against Guatemala. That is one of the worst Guatemalan teams I've seen for quite some time.
Oh, yes.
And they were still able to pull a 1-1 draw with Trinidad and Tobago. And it's not an Angus Eve problem, because he could only work with what he has. And that's my point. At the end of the day, we're hiring all these coaches from all these different places to do what exactly? Because they cannot produce the type of results you expect, because they don't have the firepower within their reign to do the right things. We have to look at this and say to ourselves, we need to improve it, because we are getting further and further away. George, USA sent a B team to this tournament, and that B team would probably beat any Caribbean team with a local base. So we have to be realistic.
Well, here's the point, the last point I'm making. Look, I think we will look at the period the Caribbean Football Union will, from 2015 to this tournament. Of course, we don't know what will happen in the cycle after this. I'm looking at this 6-year period, Brent, between 2015 and now, as a chance for the Caribbean Football Union, one of the leading lights, whether it was Jamaica or Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm looking at Jamaica because they went to 2 finals. It was a missed opportunity for them to win the Gold Cup, because between 2015 and now, I've seen the worst Mexico team in my life. I've seen the worst USA team in my life. Guatemala does not have even one proper footballer. El Salvador does not have even half a proper footballer. And we have knocked on the door. Jamaica went to 2 finals, failed both times, indictment. And now we are appearing further away when those teams are still weak. What happens when the cycle changes and those teams get strong again? What will happen to us? We'll still be fighting for crumbs.
You're correct, because we are not doing anything right now. The crumbs are going to continue that way. And I tell you what, George, I think it's going to be even worse, because I am not seeing anything there to suggest, where is the CFU under 16, under 18 tournaments, where we can have our players play in those sorts of environment? Where's the Caribbean Football Academy? Where's those sorts of situations that put our players in a perfect situation to develop? I'm very happy for what I've seen from the Jamaica Premier League, because I'm seeing players from St. Lucia, I'm seeing players from other islands coming into an environment that is going to help their development. Without that, without our CFU nations coming together, and forget how much money FIFA is giving them, start to think about developing our young players, come together collectively to find a way to make sure that our players can develop, which would bode well in our national product, respectively, across the islands, so we can start challenges. Because you're right, all these countries are going through a transitional period. And I can tell you what, when they come out of it, they're going to do well. Look at Honduras. George.
The USA are already out. The USA are already out because the A team is awesome.
Exactly. Honduras just drew with Germany in a Olympic game warm-up. So these teams in Central America, they're going to come back around, and they're going to be where they're supposed to be. We need to catch up, and we need to catch up quickly.
Absolutely. So the days of Honduras being beaten 10-1 as they were at the 1982 World Cup, those days are over. The cycle has gone. They had a poor spell. All of the leading lights in CONCACAF and the CFU didn't take the opportunity to excel. It's looking highly likely that we're going to have our hands, the CFU team hands on the CONCACAF Gold Cup anytime soon. Brent, thank you for your time. This turned into the CFU rant that we have had, we needed to have had on this program a long time ago. We'll talk again.
Yeah, thank you. I feel a lot better now, George.
Yes, for sure. For sure. All right, good.